All right. You are the Lakers fan, especially with Rob G out. You are the resident Lakers fan here today, Mr. Salaam. And so you got a new coach finally.
Yeah.
He's got about as much, actually less coaching experience than you do. But how you feeling about JJ Redick as the new coach of the LA Lakers?
Honestly or optimistic?
No, honestly. But you can give us the honesty first.
Okay, I'll give you.
You can get to the optimistic.
I don't like it. I don't like it in the same vein as I didn't like when the Brooklyn Nets hired Steve Nash,
which did not work out.
In the same vein. Like I don't like people. I understand how hard it is to coach at that level. I understand the rigors that you must go through to prepare yourself to coach at that level. Even as an assistant, I have a lot of friends who are assistant coaches working their way up the ranks and trying to do certain things and ultimately become a head coach. I saw it in football. Some of my contemporaries are now getting the opportunity to be head coaches and make that transition, but they always started on the staff and things like that.
And quickly, would you agree? Look, I think of the three major sports, coaching is the most difficult and makes the most difference in football. That's why, I'll get to, as you know, there have been guys to make the jump to head coaching with no experience that have done well in the NBA. It's impossible, in my view,
you can't do it.
To do that in the NFL.
No, you
they
can't
tried Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, that's it. I was just going to bring that up.
Nothing against him. Right. I don't care who it was. I cannot imagine, Ephraim, that you could coach in the NFL with zero experience.
No.
Head coach.
The nuance of the NFL in terms of by each position, not only that, just managing each position, each coach for each position, the front office, it's too many moving parts.
Yep.
And it's too many players. You go into training camp with 90 players. So as a head coach, you're trying to manage everybody and manage expectations. It's also
the most complicated of the three sports.
Yes, because now you really have to, especially the evolution of play calling and defenses and personnel and all of that, it's completely different. In the NBA, if you have a generational talent, case in point, LeBron James. LeBron James has gone to the finals with more coaches probably than anybody in the history of the NBA because he's been a generational talent. Mike Brown himself, when LeBron was going to the finals with Cleveland and they were winning series, was asked at the podium, what was your game plan? Well, I just gave LeBron the ball and got out the way. Which is one of the reasons I never really liked him as a Laker head coach. And Kobe was looking at him.
He didn't do bad with y'all.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling that, man. I wasn't feeling that. Kobe wasn't feeling it either.
Yeah, he took y'all as far as Phil Jackson did.
Well, we won championships with Phil Jackson.
Well, you had gotten to the point where y'all weren't winning championships with Phil because you didn't have the talent.
Right.
And then Mike took over. But that's neither here nor there.
But when you don't have the talent, you need to be dynamic. Look at what Eric Spoelstra has done with the Miami Heat year in and year out. They've not been stacked with talent in terms of, these are world beaters. They have an excellent roster. They got a bunch of guys who weren't drafted, late second-round draft picks coming in and giving you tremendous lift. Some end up starting because that's a dynamic coach.
You know what also is rare about Spoelstra is that he is that rare coach that can get the maximum out of, minimal talent or a mediocre level of talent, but also coach a superstar-laden team, which obviously did with the Heatles. A lot like Thibodeau, and in fairness, sometimes these coaches haven't had a chance, but some coaches are great. They maximize average talent. And you're like, man, he got 50 wins out of that. But then you give them some superstars and they overcoach.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're micromanaging everything on the court and you don't let your stars just be themselves and ball, and that can work against you. But Spoelstra's one of the rare ones. So, you never told me which is probably a sign of what you think of this his hire
I thought
of JJ Redick.
I got you off of that.
Right. Let me say this, and we were talking about his lack of experience, and he literally does have, I think, less experience than you, because you have coached your kids, right?
I've been coaching for 7 years.
Okay, he's far less than you. He was playing basketball, obviously, just 3 years ago in the NBA, but he's coached his kids. But I will say this, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Mark Jackson, and, of course, Steve Kerr, the greatest example, they all were head coaches without any assistant coaching experience or obviously head coaching experience. And they did well to varying degrees, but all of them did pretty well. Derek Fisher and Steve Nash also coached with no experience, and they did poorly. And how could I forget, he just got his team to the finals. Jason Kidd's another one that had no coaching experience and obviously has done a great job. I will say this about these guys, though, Ephraim. Bird, a legend. Isaiah Thomas, Jason Kidd, legends. Mark Jackson was a very, very good player, respected all-star caliber player at point guard. And Steve Kerr, was not a great player. Won a lot of championships with Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan and the like. I think he won 5 rings, if I'm not mistaken. But they, so they got that respect just because of their pedigree. Now, Nash had respect too, but still didn't do a good job. But I don't know. Nobody knows. Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss don't know. LeBron James doesn't know whether or not JJ Redick's going to be a good coach. He might be terrible. He might be outstanding. We don't know. I do think he starts out on a good note in that he has clearly the respect of LeBron James. And if you've got the respect, now, hopefully that'll translate to LeBron actually really letting him coach him. LeBron clearly respects his knowledge. They do a podcast together, and it is a cerebral podcast. So LeBron respects his basketball knowledge. And if everyone sees LeBron buying into what Redick is saying, then I do think that's a good start, because Anthony Davis and the rest of the team should buy into Redick if LeBron is. So he starts out, I think, on first base because of that. Obviously, a key is getting him a good coaching staff, and there's talk about Sam Cassell and David Adelman and Jared Dudley, who played, with the Lakers and was on Dallas's staff just this past season. So if he gets a good staff together, we'll see. I mean, I think one of the challenges, Ephraim, is that the Lakers are expected to compete for the championship. And I don't think they're good enough to, win the West or win the championship. And so it's very possible that they actually take a step backward. Maybe it's because LeBron gets older or AD gets hurt more. Remember, LeBron and AD were unusually healthy last year. Yep. So what if they take a step backward next year or the next 2 years, and maybe they go out in the first round or whatever it is? Is JJ Redick going to survive that? Because championship or bust, when you really don't have a great chance of winning a championship, is a tough situation to be in.
Yeah, I think, and that's some of the guys you named on that list who had no coaching experience and then stepped into teams. Most notably, Mark Jackson and Steve Kerr was actually with the same team, and they both had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green to step into.
Not old versions.
The young ones.
Right.
And so that's a little bit different situation than stepping into a team with an aging superstar in LeBron James, an often hurt superstar in Anthony Davis. And look, I'll give credit where credit is due. Anthony Davis played more games than he'd ever played in his NBA career this past season.
Right.
But it still wasn't enough to keep him out of the play-in.
Right.
And so
Right.
with that notion, I think having a coach that doesn't when you're coaching the Lakers and there's an expiration date on talent that you have and your expectation is a championship, then what you don't have is time. And I think that's why Dan Hurley was like, this feels like a lose-lose situation. It's not for JJ Redick because he's never coached before, right? If he gets them to the playoffs, he's won. But if someone like
you mean if he gets them in the top 8,
right? Like in terms of
season, right.
what you expect from a first year ever coach, right? A team that was in the play-in the 2 years prior, right? With a coach.
I do think that Hurley had the pedigree. Let's say they go out in the first or second round the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I think Hurley had the pedigree to survive that, and they're like, okay, he's going to be our guy post LeBron.
Absolutely, yep.
Does Redick have the pedigree? You know what I'm saying?
No.
To survive going out in the first or second round the next 2 years.
Well, as impatient as Laker fans are, what we found out and noticed that the ownership of the Lakers are more impatient than we are.
Yes.
I mean, they still may be paying 3 coaches. Right. Like they still may be cutting checks to 3 coaches who had a very short leash in terms of we need to get to, especially now that the Celtics have won their 18th championship and the Lakers are stuck at 17. Like that means something.
Well, and they could, and look, the Lakers have been the better franchise, I would say.
Well, yes, because
right, because through every decade y'all been good.
Yeah, and
whereas they haven't. Yeah,
but it's still, as a Laker fan and as a franchise, it's not good enough.
Well, they got a chance to put a little distance between y'all. Yeah, because they could win maybe another one or 2. I doubt 2. But maybe another one before y'all win another one.
Will the catastrophe of injuries in the East happen again this year like it did this?
Nah, it should be tougher.
So it will definitely be tougher.
It should be tougher. Absolutely.